What what's up, guys? Welcome to the Real Christian Show. My name is Ben Pech, and I'm your host. Guys, if you're new to the show, we have four formats of the Real Christian Show. Number one, we talk about current events, politics, what's happening in the world, and in fact, that's actually what we're doing today. So I'm very excited because we have some really cool topics to cover, and we have somebody that's a really good expert on them. Second thing that we do, we talk about a kind of like a solo podcast about personal branding, sales, faith, and a bunch of different things I've actually pretty enjoyed. Just give you guys more resources to achieve your goals, success, and everything. Third thing that we do interviews with real people, Christians that I consider they're doing a great job, so you guys can learn about their story and how you guys can do it too. And then the fourth thing that we do is Q&As. We've done a couple of those, and you guys can submit your questions directly to my personal Instagram, benjappp201, and we can talk about faith, relationships, dating, law of attraction, business, entrepreneurship, social media, literally everything. Has been awesome. And before we start, guys, know that we don't do any like social media with this and stuff. I'm a value-driven guy. So if you truly found value in the conversation we're going to have today or the past episodes, share with your friends. If this is valuable content, I'm a true believer that you guys are going to talk about it and share it and talk it with your friends about it, family, tag us on Instagram. Now, if we suck, don't share it. I'm cool with it. But I think on the past episodes and also this conversation we're going to have today, it's going to be very valuable for you guys to have more information of what's happening in the world. And I feel like it's a fair thing if it was valuable, you guys are going to share it. So anyways, guys, today we have Phil Lyman. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, Ben. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a minute. I know it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Phil and I, we met a couple, I think it was last year, around April, June.
Probably before the
Probably that.
primaries. Yeah.
Yeah. Phil was running for office for governor here in Utah. He's a CPA, but he's been in politics. How long you been in politics for?
15 years.
What were you doing before running for governor?
So I was a county commissioner for 8 years, then in the legislature for 6 years.
Okay.
And so I guess that's 14 years, but that's now a year running for for that office before then, since then. So yeah, about 15
That's cool.
years.
So you have quite an experience, I would say.
Oh, well, I'm from a small rural county, that's 8% private property. The rest is controlled by the government. And so, yeah, when I talk about federal lands issues and collusion between agencies, I know what I'm talking about. And we might get into this, but, as a commissioner, I got crosswise with the Bureau of Land Management because of their collusion and their really just horrible, bully tactics, and ended up getting prosecuted. I went to jail, federally charged. So I spent a little bit of time in jail.
Did you? Oh yeah, I forgot that. How long were you in jail
and
for?
those things, you either come out of that kind of like sad and just depressed, or like I'm never going to do that again, or you come out really angry. I kind of came out resolute, at least, about standing up for people who don't have the political backing, and then that led to the state legislature, and then to running for governor, and I love what's happening now with watching Doge and this, like they want to clean house. It's like, well,
Yeah, we'll cover all of them. I have a bunch of questions for you. It's funny because do you have like you seem like a very chill guy. That's like what I get from you, but I'm pretty sure you do have that big chip on your shoulder in a lot of things. And is that one of the reasons why you got into politics and you keep being resilient and fight for it and stuff like that? Do you?
Yeah, I've got a chip on both shoulders, so I'm pretty balanced. And
well, let's talk about.
I mean, people say that all the time. I'm a Taurus. I guess maybe I'm calm right up until I'm not calm.
That's
and I can get really frustrated, and it's usually not something. If people are doing something to me, it's not a problem. But when I see, innocent people that are being hurt by bad policy, honestly, I just can't. I just cannot suffer that that injustice, and that's what I see happening in government, especially in Utah. And I'm sad to say it, but especially in Utah, really bad policy, and the net effect is that it hurts people.
Well, let's talk about it. You were running as a governor last year against Governor Cox in the Republican Party.
That's right.
And he won by how much?
He didn't win.
Okay, let's talk about. I want to know what happened.
No, I won the convention. I almost 68% to his 32%, which is the lowest that any incumbent governor has ever gotten at convention.
Okay.
So then he had taken the signature route to get on the primary ballot, which it means you get 28,000 signatures, which he didn't get his signatures.
How
And
do you
two
know?
audits now have proven that, but he was on primary ballot anyway, fraudulently. And then he won the primary election with 54%, which he didn't actually get that either. And I'm actually sitting here right now doing a big statistical analysis, all the information that I can get, which is not very much because he controls that information. But I believe that he lost the primary election as well. But he's the one in charge of the primary election. He's in charge of his own election. He's in charge of who gets put on the ballot. So you create a fraudulent ballot, you put yourself on it, then you cheat on that election, you win that, and you become the governor. And all of this is backed up by a group of people in Utah that are really heavily invested in his success as winning that race. They've got billions and billions of dollars invested on the Wasatch Front, and they're not going to let somebody like me come in and mess around with that. Stealing an election is kids play to these people. And they don't do it just so they can steal an election. They do it so they can continue to build their stadiums and their Olympic venues and their 15-minute cities and their developments and on all of these things. And that's why I've said before, you have corruption that's not bags of cash in smoke-filled rooms. It's worse than that. It's policy, and it's policy that picks winners and losers and favors those that are willing to play the game at the expense of those who have some integrity and some moral stop, to their actions. And
Well, you can't take that to the Department of Justice or like sue him or like take him to court or something or whatever.
I've spent probably in the last year probably $150,000 in legal fees, which is not much compared to what you can spend. But yeah, we've had about 7 lawsuits, and it starts out usually asking for some records, some information from the lieutenant governor's office, which they come back and say no. So then you have to go to the state records committee to appeal that, and they say no. And then you go to district court to say we believe we're entitled to see this information, and they say no. So then you appeal that to the next level, and it's no, you can't have it. And the judges are appointed by Spencer Cox. The state records committee is appointed by Spencer Cox. All of these people are making sure that nobody in Utah has access to any of the information that would normally be available. In fact, 10 years ago, if I wanted to look at the voter rolls or the cast vote records, I'd just go online. I'd go to the county website. I'd pull off the cast vote record. I could look at all those things. I could do some analysis. And we did that in 2020, after the 2020 election. And there were some real anomalies that we saw, meaning myself. I was in the legislature at the time. I took him to the lieutenant governor. And her response to the anomalies was not, let's look into that. It was to say no one must ever look at these records again, because they're starting to see the blatant, fraudulent, corrupt cheating that's going on in Utah's election. So now bills that have been passed to say you can't look at voter rolls, you can't look at any cast vote records.
But where you guys saw it, like you're just screwed, you just can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. And the obfuscation of that is really telling, because that tells you, a person who has nothing to hide doesn't hide that stuff.
Yeah.
And so then I start making allegations, like on the signatures. I came out and said, well, Spencer Cox doesn't have his signatures. Otherwise, we would be able to look at those, because we could look at state school board races. We could look at other people's races. It was right up until we asked to look at Governor Cox's signatures. And then it's like, oh, stop the presses. No one can look at these records. And so I made the accusation. He doesn't have his signatures. To prove me wrong, they did an audit, and thank goodness for Derek Brown and John Curtis, because we kind of threw them into that same boat. And they said, well, we want an audit. We want these audited. So they audited Derek Brown, John Curtis, and Spencer Cox's signature. Came back and said, Derek's fine, John Curtis is fine, Spencer Cox doesn't have his signatures. But it didn't matter. The people are like, well, he won the primary. It's like,
so he did not have the signatures to be on the ballot.
It's a fraudulent ballot, and he put himself on it. And that's the other thing. Sorry, you just cut me off anytime, Ben, if I'm rambling.
Hey, no, this is good. I mean, because a lot of people think that corruption, all this stuff just happens in the Democrat Party, but it's good to also show that This guy's Republican, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He's running
So
on
I
a
mean,
Republican.
and here's the other thing, John Curtis, if he came and said, "Well, I relied in good
Wait, who's
faith."
John Curtis?
John
John Curtis.
Curtis is he's our new senator, the one that won the Senate race.
Okay.
He's a statewide race like Derek Brown, so that's why it's kind of good comparison. If John Curtis says, "Well, I was told that my signatures were okay and I operated in good faith," that'd be a logical argument for John Curtis to make, and I think the courts would agree. But when Spencer Cox makes the same argument, it's like, well, who's in charge of counting those signatures? Oh, it's Spencer Cox and his Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. So they don't get the same luxury of saying I relied on somebody else's in good faith, because they're relying on themselves. And not only that, and this is important too, and we're getting into the weeds here, Ben, but it's really important because they're saying, well, we thought we had our signatures, but we go back into the emails getting grammar requests, and we find out they knew before the deadline that they didn't have their signatures. They knew that they were cheating, and they were banking on the fact that as the governor, as lieutenant governor, with the judges in their pockets, everything else, they could just prevent anybody from ever looking at these signatures.
So you're basically like Donald Trump in 2020.
Yeah, no, it's really similar.
Really?
Yeah, it is really
Well,
similar.
I want to ask you, how do you bounce back from it?
Well, I'm running in 2028, and
So are you running with the mottos like too big to rig type of thing?
yeah. Honestly, it was too big to rig in 2024, and they did rig it anyway. But it's blatant. It's out there. So if anyone is willing to look at it, like from the federal level, if Pam Bondi, the new U.S. attorney, if she were to hire a special counsel to come and look at Utah's elections, they would have no conclusion other than this was a fraudulent primary
And are they
election.
going to look into it?
I hope so. I don't
Did
have.
you request that?
Yeah, I've requested it. I requested it from the Utah State Legislature to get special counsel. And from the whole leadership of the House and the whole leadership of the Senate, I got one response from one of the senators just saying that they would talk about it, but nothing ever came of that. And that's really telling as well. If you've got the Speaker of the House saying I'm going to tackle election integrity, but I'm not going to address the very issue of the election that is still like in process, then they're not really tackling election integrity. What they're really saying is, we got to make sure that whatever happened here, that we almost got caught, that we get enough bills passed that we never ever get caught in the future. It's total evasion. It's total evasive operation on the part of those legislators. And they love to come across as, oh, I'm the one that's bringing election integrity to Utah. If they're not willing to look at 2024 and do something about 2024, then they're not about election integrity at all.
So Utah, we do have mail-in ballots here, right?
Yeah, universal mail-in ballot.
And do the states get to decide how, like, their elections and how they want to run them and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have like ID that you have to show ID here, or
No.
doesn't really? Oh, you don't?
No, you don't have to show
You
your
don't?
ID. No. In fact, your ballot just shows up in the mail. At my house, I've got my daughter's been gone for about 10 years, but every year she still gets a ballot. We call the clerk, hey, Brooke doesn't live here anymore.
What would you change when it comes to elections here in Utah? How would you make it?
Well, to your point there, first of all, get rid of universal mail-in ballots, and I'm really thrilled that Trump is saying that exact same thing. I've been saying it for the last 6 years, and especially for the last 4 years, that we need to get rid of the universal mail-in ballot. That doesn't mean that a person can't still apply and say, I'm going to be out of the country, I still want to vote, I can get a mail-in ballot. But that's,
Yeah, but like
different
go
than
and vote,
universal.
like in person.
Yeah.
Because
So
those are the elections that I know. Like in South America, that's like what everybody does. Like
it's what everybody does. It's what
it's a
we've done.
holiday, and then you go, you don't work, and it's just like you vote all day.
Yeah, if we really want election integrity, that's what we would go to. We'd go to same day in-person voting with your voter ID, where the ballots are cast at the precinct level and counted at the precinct level and then reported on up. And then and from an accountant standpoint, I'm a CPA, so from an accountant standpoint, I could go back and I could look at any one of those precincts, any one of those packets, and I could analyze. If there was something that was irregular, I could nail it down to the very specific thing. And you can find fraudulent ballots or or just mistakes that you can't find under the centralized system that we have now.
And mailing ballots started with COVID, right?
No, we started universal mail-in ballot I think in 2014.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Oh, okay. I thought it was COVID.
Yeah, no, I believe it was 2014. It might have even been a little bit before that, but
Yeah.
that's the same year that we passed SB 54, which provided the signature route, and it was a all out scheme, a plot to take over the elections. We'll get people on the ballot through signatures, and we'll do universal mail-in ballot, and we'll implement ERIC, that's the Electronic Records Information Center, to control the voter rolls. Basically, now no one can look at voter rolls, no one can prevent somebody from
Who
getting on the
passed that?
ballot, and no one can find out if that person actually won an election. So it's pretty genius what they've done in
Who passed
2014.
that?
It came through the legislature, came as a Senate bill. Uh, I'm not sure on the universal mail-in ballot, but that came from Spencer Cox when he was the lieutenant governor about that same time.
So how long has Cox been in office here in Utah?
When did he? It was probably about 2013, I think,
Oh,
when
so
he
he's
took
been here
office.
for a minute.
Yeah, yeah. So he was a legislator for less than a term, so less than 2 years, and then Gary Herbert appointed him as the lieutenant governor, and Greg Bell stepped down. He became lieutenant governor, and then became the governor.
What's the salary of the governor in Utah?
I think it's 180,000 or something like that.
Isn't? Because it's funny because they look a lot of like the people in the Senate and whatnot, and they get paid like 150 or 200,000. I don't know how much it is a year, but after like a couple of years, the net worth comes out to be like 20 million, 50 million, and then you realize that they do all these deals with companies to approve certain bills and policies, and then they get paid and inside trading and all these different things. Do you think for governors he's kind of like we see that a lot?
Yeah,
A
yeah,
lot
you
of.
see it. You see it a lot, and Spencer Cox is well connected with Centricom, his family's business, and he supposedly has stepped out of it, but
What's
his
Centricom?
Centricom is a big telecommunications company, and you look at their revenues up until he took office, they're 17 million a year, whatever, and then they go to like 50 million a year. It's just like a huge jump.
Really?
And I mean, Centricom, I think, is a good company. I think they do some really good work, but it's not a level playing field. No one can argue that is a level playing field when the governor is awarding contracts to his family's business, and his brother-in-law, Mike McKell, his wife is still a member of Centricom, so they're getting, the benefits of this really huge run-up in
Well, how do
revenue
you
from
regulate that?
Centricom.
Because I feel like, I mean, if somebody has a good product and you can actually provide value to the community and stuff, like, yeah, why not use it? But also, they have their interest because he's family members, friends, and you don't actually know if they have the best interest of the people. So how do you regulate that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of back to your question of like, how does somebody come in making 150,000 a year and come out a few years later with a net worth that's gone up by 15 or 20 million dollars? And that's how it happens. And then the other thing that you see in Utah is big contracts that go to companies, and then those companies make large financial contributions to campaigns like the governor's. And it
Okay.
was really interesting, at the beginning of this last race, he made a list of all of the companies that are supporting Spencer Cox for governor. Well, you go to the budget and you look at all the money that went to those companies in their contracts, and it's like, oh, well, no wonder they're supporting Spencer Cox. He's feeding them all of this work. And then it gets a little more sinister when you say a lot of that was done under the auspice of COVID, which was a declared emergency. And when you declare an emergency as the governor, it opens up the avenue for what they call no bid contracts. So these guys don't have to bid on a contract. It's so important to get this work done that we
Just
don't
do
have
it.
time to go through the bid process. We
Uh,
just start giving money to our friends, and our friends start giving money to our campaign contribution, and we just see this
dude,
massive run up in.
it's been insane to me, and I think a lot of people. Well, we saw this with like the Biden administration, like 50 billion, 150 billion. Like they dropped the word billions and millions like nothing. Like, and in the U.S. there's like probably 100 billionaires. Like that's a lot of money, And like I love the work that Doge is doing in cutting expenses, cutting cost, and I don't know how familiar you've been like with all this stuff that they found, like the $50 million in condoms, or like that they would send this money
Yeah.
to like countries in Africa for like sex changes and stuff like that. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Or
Yeah.
like with the USAID, what is it called, USAID?
USAID. Yeah.
Yeah, what's your take on all that stuff in like government spending and like they just use people's money and they just spend like freaking crazy?
Well, I mean, I knew it was happening. I don't know nobody knew the extent, and we probably still don't know the extent. But you look at for me, it's the big environmentalist groups, uh, Center for Biodiversity and Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance, and these. So the Center for Biodiversity listed as their largest contributor the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Well, what do they do with the money? They sue the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Wait, is this in Utah or this is just like
This is
nationwide?
nationally,
Oh, national.
nationally.
Okay.
So, so they sue the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for endangered species. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service settle, basically through the court process. They call it sue and settle.
Yeah.
And so then they agree that to designate 500 species as endangered, which shuts down the oil and gas operations across the country. And Congress never had to do a thing about it. And it would be one thing again if Center for Biodiversity was was just self-funded and people that are passionate about that are giving them money, but it's not. It's the federal government that's giving them money to sue the federal government, to sue and settle and pay out these huge settlements and designate all these species and shut down these industries. And then you find out where the other money is coming from for Center for Biodiversity is coming from Russia, from China, from Saudi Arabia, other people who want to see our oil and gas shut down. And then we get these policies that roll in. You get you get people coming straight from the Wilderness Society into the Bureau of Land Management, who 2 years earlier were suing the Bureau of Land Management. Now they're running the Bureau of Land Management. They shut down all the oil and gas extractive industries. The same thing that they've been suing for, and in the process of that, like out here in my area, close to Page, Arizona, they shut down this massive coal-fired power plant, and 1,200 Native Americans lose their job overnight. And it's like all a tribute to climate change. And then
I think climate change is the biggest scam in the world.
it
It's
is
so
the biggest
stupid.
scam in the world.
There
Yeah.
is no way you can actually track the impact of climate. There's no way. Or like the influence of like, okay, I'm not eating like plastic. How can you track like the influence that you're making? You can't track that.
Well, and here's the thing. So all that money that's coming from China and Russia to say the United States has to shut down their coal-fired power plants. At the same time, China is building a coal-fired power plant every week, one a week, because they know that that's where the affordable electricity is coming from. Russia's, doing natural gas power plants, just rampantly building
Yeah.
those things while they're shutting down the United States. So I've always said this isn't a war on oil. It's a war on the United States by our enemies. And you find out that our enemies are not limited to Russia and China. It's the Biden administration colluding with them,
Well,
the
didn't
Romneys that have
China
connections to Ukraine. And all of this stuff just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling and shutting us down.
How many thousands of acres of land did China purchase in the United States? How many did they have? It was
Oh
like
man, I
200.
don't know, but they own a bunch in
It was
Utah.
like 200,000.
I'm sure it's way more than 200,000 acres. I would say it's probably a couple of million acres because
Oh,
in Utah,
I don't know
they
the
might have
fact like
200.
specifically,
I bet
but
they have 200,000 in Utah, and a bunch of it
really,
right up by the Dugway Proving Grounds. Military strategic land that they buy right outside the proving grounds, and this is another thing that Spencer Cox has helped to facilitate the sale of that land to China. So the very people that want to get credit for protecting Utah from these foreign interests are the ones that are selling us out. And what could be better if you're a pirate? I mean, that's exactly what you're going to do.
is he a member of the church?
Yeah,
Oh, is he?
yeah.
I saw. Why were you so chill in the debate you guys did?
Why was I?
Like if he's doing all this stuff, I would go off on like this dude and freaking expose his butt.
Yeah. The debate was really interesting because, first of all, it's the Utah Debate Commission, and they tell you in advance, you'll have 30 seconds or 1 minute. We'll ask the question, you answer the question. So it never really turned into a debate. And in retrospect, you want to really come out, but you don't know. It's like, well, is the next question going to ask about illegal immigration? Are you going to bring this up at some point? And then you just go through it, and by the end of it, I mean, I think I did really well in the debate. But yeah, we didn't get into any of the controversial stuff, and that's because they control completely the tone and the topics. In the media interview afterwards, I think it kind of came out a little bit more. But the Olympics came up, and Spencer Cox is saying, 67% of Utah, maybe it's 87% of Utah, they love the Olympics. And I said, that's probably a Harris X poll. It doesn't mean anything. Went back and looked, it was exactly that. It was a Harris X poll, conducted basically a Twitter poll saying, hey, who likes the Olympics? Well, I love the Olympics too, but it doesn't mean that I want to sell Utah's soul to climate change principles and DEI principles.
They have to adapt Utah for the Olympics and pass all those policies for that.
Oh yeah. We signed on the dotted line. DEI is integral to that. Climate change is integral to that. We've got all these amendments.
Trump just ended DEI, so it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
No, he didn't end DEI at all. He still has. I mean, the state still has a DEI person. They changed their titles, from diversity, equity, and inclusion supervisor.
That's the most stupidest thing that I've seen. Because I'm like, dude, I don't care if you're black, yellow, white, friggin' purple, or guy or woman, or who you sleep with. Doesn't really matter. We gotta go back to who's the best for the job. And if that's a woman, sick. If that's a Latino, sick. If you're black or white, amazing. Doesn't really matter. But who's the best? Instead of hiring or running like Kamala was doing, I'm the first woman. Who gives a crap? If you're the first woman. Are you the best for the job? And I think a lot of people have become very soft with it. It's like, oh yeah, let's do this person because she represents, because she's a woman, or he's black, or I'm like, guys, what happened to value-driven people being the best? What happened to that? So
I think that's the biggest change of this administration is the merit-based, promotions or whatever. And Elon Musk represents that. Donald Trump represents that. JD Vance definitely represents that. So
JD Vance, he's a dog.
Isn't he awesome? I mean, yeah, he's the real deal. He's a
real deal.
He's a hillbilly that came up through the ranks, and what a great
vice Phil, I have a bunch of questions for you. So that we see a lot of corruption here in Utah. I think a lot of the stuff when it comes to corruption obviously starts in the head, federal government, and we've been corrupt for the past 4 years. So obviously all the states can do whatever the heck they want. But now it's more like cleaning house, some accountability. I want to start with one thing. I want to start with immigration. They've been deporting a lot of people, and I agree with it. I'm an immigrant. It took me a lot of work to be here. I had to pay a lot of money. I do think that illegal people that are here, obviously, they're breaking the law. A lot of these people, they come from tough backgrounds and they want to be here because the United States represents freedom, opportunity, and everything. But yeah, sometimes even they don't have the money or whatever. But I've come to notice that in Utah, there's a bunch of illegal immigrants, a lot of them. And I've gotten to know a lot of them because of the church. I realized, because I do a lot of work with missionaries and stuff, and talking to people, and I realized that everyone, it's illegal here, a lot of them. So a lot of them, they're being deported. There's a lot of people that are scared. What's your take on what's happening with immigration? And then we're going to be talking about Utah.
Yeah. So again, policy. We create policies that make Utah a magnet for illegal immigration. But it's worse than that because we create policies that make us a magnet for non-citizens with criminal intent. And this idea that Utah is not a sanctuary state, it's well, call it whatever you want. Our policies favor illegal immigrants. They favor illegal immigrants with criminal intent. You've got 4 guys that raped a teenage girl, and they got 4 years probation.
Here?
Three guys that got 4 years probation.
Here?
Why did they get? Yeah, in Utah. And why did they get probation instead of prison sentences? Because Utah says, well, the federal government says we can't detain these people unless we're an ICE facility. We're not an ICE facility, so therefore the judge gives them probation. Now, if it was you or I, we would go to jail for a very, very long time.
But
But if you're an
why would
illegal,
a judge give them probation? Like, how can you be so stupid if somebody commits a crime like that and be like, I'm gonna send your butt back to your country or like get out of here?
yeah, and that's I kind of ran on this, the whole time. And my position is if you break the law in Utah, you can sit in a Utah jail. And if the federal government says, "Oh, no, 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 you can't detain them. They're non-citizens. You can't detain them," I would say, "Well, stop me." That's where I'd be a sanctuary state, saying, "I'm a sanctuary from the federal government regulating who can and can't sit in our Utah jails." What I would never ever do is put them back on the streets to jeopardize my kids and my grandkids
So
and
illegal
your kids.
immigrants, are they subject to federal law, not state law? Or like they're more what?
That I think that's the right question, because yeah, the feds are basically saying, well, you don't have the right to do this to a non-citizen. That falls under ICE, the immigrant enforcement arm of the federal government. And what I would say if I'm the governor is, if they want to break a law in Utah, they can sit in a Utah jail and tell the federal government to pounce in if they
Yeah,
don't
but does
like it.
that depend on you though as a governor, or
Oh yeah.
it's more like according to the judges of whatever they think it's
Oh
right or
no,
wrong?
it's the governor. I mean, you've got judges, you've got the judicial branch. This is the executive branch, but you've got a governor who says, "Not in my state. We're not going to do that." And tells the judges that, if you don't incarcerate these people, if you don't detain these people, then I'm going to put in new judges, because he's got the ability to do that. He's the
Oh
one that
yeah.
appoints them. So the governor really carries the big stick. And you saw it happen in Texas. It was more Paxman, the attorney general in Texas, that came out and said, "We're being invaded. Therefore, our obligation is to the citizens of our state. And if the federal government's not going to fulfill their responsibility under the fourth article of the Constitution, then we're going to step in and protect our citizens. And you've got a right to do that." I mean, how absurd would it be to say that a governor doesn't have a right to protect his citizens against an invasion from, an illegal foreign power? And people think, "Oh, that's not fair to call illegal immigration an invasion." But when it's being orchestrated as an invasion, and when you've got the governor going to Colorado, making deals with that governor to bring these people into Utah illegally, I mean, that's called human trafficking, and people should go to jail for that. But not only that, then you start looking again, and you get into the USAID money and all the money that's going to the Catholic Charities Foundation to fund this kind of stuff, and all the money that's coming to the Tides Foundation. And you find out, okay, again, it's the illegal immigrant industrial complex. There is a business model. There's huge money, billions and billions of dollars that flow to states that are willing to support the illegal immigration movement. And why would anybody want illegal immigrants in Utah? Exactly to overwhelm states in the United States. It's to overwhelm states. It's to overwhelm healthcare. It's to overwhelm communities. And they create so much problem that the only solution is more government and unrestrained control of our lives through surveillance and all these things. It just goes on and on and on. I mean, it's so
Okay, but how do you
sinister.
fix it? Okay, I'm all for it. Like I think that the past 4 years, open borders, everyone's coming in, they're not vetting people, and we had a lot of dangerous people that are in this country legally. But on the flip side, I think, and this is where my ignorance comes when it comes to policy. I truly believe there's a way that maybe the United States can make immigration just better. Because I think about my personal life, dude, it took me so much money, so much work, so much stress just to be here legally. And I think I'm such a contributor to this freaking society, and I do a lot of good. And I truly believe there's a lot of people that come to this country with the same mentality. But the process sometimes can be very expensive and so tedious that that's why they don't want to do it. So how do you balance both? Because right now I feel like we're definitely in the other extreme of there's a bunch of people, we got to clean house. But also, what policies would you put in place to make it more accessible for people to come to this country that was founded on immigrants?
Yeah, I mean, the key term in illegal immigration is illegal. So we're not anti-immigrants. We believe that people obey the laws. And if you don't have borders, you don't have a country, you don't have a state. And Utah has a border, and it means something. So the way to enforce that is simply to say we're not going to make policies that encourage that type of behavior. We're going to deport people. Now, states have a really hard time deporting someone back to their home country, but Utah isn't a border state, but it's a border to border states. It's a border
Yeah.
to Nevada and California, basically California, Colorado, New Mexico. So when those states want to get rid of their problems, they say, well, where can we send them? And you've got a governor in Utah who's saying, and I shouldn't say just a governor, because you also have, you mentioned the LDS Church, and I'm faithful LDS. I'm not critical of the LDS Church, but the policies that seep into that kind of a deep state that seeps into the church is saying, yeah, we are going to use even the church to facilitate bringing all these people in here illegally. So a governor can stop that just by saying,
Wait,
simply by saying,
what
we're
has
not going to do
the
this anymore.
church done?
The church just has policies that statements coming out and saying, we don't refer to these people as illegal immigrants. We refer to them as new Americans or as immigrants. It's like, that's fine, except for the ones that are here illegally. That is an illegal immigrant. And it's, the church has it, they have a big heart and which is fine. It's fine for a church to have a big heart. It's something else for a church to advocate for policies that lead to, tren de Aragua in our communities, endangering our children and overwhelming our healthcare systems and our schools.
Okay. No, I think I saw the statistics here in Utah. I think it's like 75% white people. Then I think it's 15, 17% Latino population. And then the rest is like Asian, African American, and just like all the other ethnicities that there are.
Yeah.
And Latino community is growing like crazy here. But it's sad because, like, to be completely honest, most of the people that I meet that are Latinos, they're illegals. And I'm like, guys, how do you guys like it? Took me a lot of work to be here. Like, I had to spend so much money. I remember I paid like 13 grand to my lawyer just for me, and then
Yeah.
35 grand and this and that, and a lot of money. So,
You know,
uh,
I've got a lot of friends and people in construction industry that rely heavily on immigrants, and they know that there's a lot of illegal motivation to do that. But there's a difference between someone who's trying to get enough money to bring their family here and to go through the process, and they haven't been able to make it through the process, still illegal, and you still have to deport those people. But we throw all of those people into the same boat with cartel members who are bringing in fentanyl. And then you get into the justice system where they arrest a guy. He's got 23 pounds of fentanyl, and it's his 15th arrest. They know he's dealing fentanyl, or even worse, the child sex trafficking that's going on. And Utah protects that in a really strange, unnatural, unreasonable way.
but what's the ratio, do you think, when it comes to immigrants, illegal immigrants, that it's like good illegal immigrants that actually want a better future, contribute, work, pay taxes and everything, versus the other side, which is just like dangerous criminal behavior and being a negative impact to society?
Yeah, I think that the dividing point there is the person who's going to the official sources and saying, "Can you help me? Can you help me get my paperwork done?"
Okay.
They're calling their state legislator, they're calling their senators, and they're saying, I'm in a position here. If I go back to Colombia, bad things are going to happen to me and my family. I need legitimately, I need sanctuary. I need some protection. Versus those who are doing everything they can to evade the law and evade the system. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people who are picked up criminally, arrested, booked in, and I mean they make it out the front door before the arresting officers can get their paperwork done. And it's
Yeah.
policy.
Okay,
We
yeah,
put
no,
it in place and it
yeah,
hurts us.
I agree. I think we gotta clean house and then later on work on those policies and everything. Because the past 4 years it's been a whole mess. What do you think is the biggest achievement from Biden and Harris, if you can think of one?
Let's see. I'll try to think of something positive.
Like, actually, because I think they're complete. Like, I don't know who the heck was running for the country for the past 4 years. There's a
Mm-mm.
report that came out that Biden has been the president and spent more time, more than anybody, in vacation.
Oh yeah. So
Oh yeah,
okay, I'll tell you what the best thing that came out of the Biden and Harris administration was, and it's that people actually woke up to realize that the government is lying to us constantly. You know, that's I've said that. The only thing we know for sure is that we're being lied to, but through all of the last 4 years, I think people are just waking up to the fact that this is a corrupt system. And now with Doge, you know, I mean, I don't know
they're
what they're
doing
talking about.
God's work. Like they're doing God's work. Did you see the Social Security thing? Like Elon
Oh
was
yeah.
saying, like, dude, there's millions of people over the age of 110 that are receiving checks. And again, maybe there's people alive that are over 110 years old, but do you know anybody that's 110? Probably
Yeah.
not. Me neither. So where's is all this money going to? Like going to to who? You know? So there's a lot of corruption. But what's your take on Elon, Doge, everything they're doing, the power that they have, and everything?
You know, the fact that we're pushing $40 trillion in debt and in the United States, and then to find out that there's trillions and trillions of dollars of waste is like we I've always said, does it make any sense for the United States to be so in debt? Is it because we don't know how to work? Is it because we don't have resources? There's nothing that explains why we would be $40 trillion in debt, other than the fact that we're sending all of this money out to Ukraine. It makes it back into the pockets of the politicians that are passing those policies, and then it comes back to your point that you made earlier, that you come in, you take a job making $150,000 a year, and 8 years later you retire with a net worth of $150 million. That military industrial complex, all of those things.
So you do agree with what Doge is doing, exposing the government? And
Yeah. I mean, I wake up happy every day now.
I freaking love it. I think it's amazing. I don't know how people can be against it. I know the media is going like hard on Elon and be like, yeah, but Tesla just received this contract from the government and SpaceX and all this stuff. But I'm like, dude, like he's a billionaire that is in TV talking about all the billionaires at the Democrat Party. Like they fund all these different projects and donate money. You don't even know their names. This dude is like on the public eye and talking and showing his face and everything. So I think there's been a lot of transparency that people, they're just not used to it, but the media's just hitting on them big time.
You know, if you look at history, I mean, you have people who want to plunder, who want to take control of countries, take control of resources and land and wealth, and you know the pirates of the past, the barbarians that take over this stuff. And it's interesting because I look now at the Biden pirate family and all the stuff that they did, and then I look at Elon Musk and I look at Trump and I think they're kind of like pirates themselves, because people look at them and they think they could go to work for us. They could really take on these people. A nice guy, some nice, honest person says, "Oh, I want to go and be the president." Everybody's like, "I don't think you could do it. I don't think you could take on those evil people." But
Dude,
there's
he
something
takes
about,
so much.
right? But there's
Like I
something about Elon that says, "I think he could take them on." So you just pray every day that these are good people. And Trump is no different. Trump he's no slouch when it comes to
Dude, that dude is a
business.
dog. To be honest, and I'm gonna make my opinion very publicly. I adore and love Donald Trump. I think that dude has the biggest balls I have ever seen in a human being. Yeah, he's a human guy. He's made mistakes like you and me. I've made so many mistakes in my life, and if we start digging dirt of everyone has dirt in their personal life and whatever. But when it comes to getting stuff done, that dude freaking loves his country. Dude, he doesn't care now like what people think. He's gonna say his opinion, and I just think it's amazing, like everything that he went through in his campaign. The because like the left or just the deep state, they had this idea of how to ruin someone. First, they accuse you about something, about like some sexual thing. Then they try to put you in jail, and then they try to kill you. And for Trump, like you saw that it actually started like that, like the whole sexual stuff, rapes and everything, and just ruining your name. Because if I accuse you of like, oh, money laundering or like drugs and stuff, it's kind of cool. Like it's not like a bad thing. But what's the worst crime that I can accuse you of? Oh, sexual stuff, rape. That tears down your name and your reputation. And then the whole assassination attempt, which I truly believe God was involved in this man's life. for him to be in office. And I just think if we would have gone the other side with Kamala and Wells, which it would have been a whole mess. Like we would be in World War III. This country, if the U.S. falls, the world falls, and the second coming is so like it's here in Christ is here, and we're all. That's how you know that we're like in the like actually latter days, when like the U.S. actually falls. But we were so close of World War III, this country going to ruins, chicks competing against guys, guys cutting their dicks and being girls, and all these
So bad.
stupidity that I don't know how the heck it got like weasel into the government in people's minds. So I don't know, dude. I think that man is so resilient, and he's taking so much hate. And I think they did an interview. I forgot who did it, but somebody asked him, dude, how do you? I think it was Dr. Phil. He's like, how do you
Yeah.
do it? Like in your alone moments, do you get emotional? How do you deal with everything? And his response was just like, well, I don't think about it. I just deal with it. You know, I'm a man. I'm a leader. This is my responsibility. I just do it.
Right.
I think it's just amazing, and he's just I just love the guy, to be honest. You can judge him by whatever the stuff that he's done. We all have dirt in our life, but when it comes to getting stuff done, I just admire the heck out of him, to be honest.
I do too, and I agree with you 100%. He does love America, and it's funny that you can take a billionaire who appeals to all of the blue collar workers in the United States, and the reason he does it because you can tell he's authentic. He's not blowing smoke, and he's not trying to help himself out. I just got back from CPAC. I was back there last week, and
How was
it
it?
was so funny because Elon Musk, he gets up there and he's funny because he acts
He's an
like he's
interesting guy. He's kind of weird, like
he
in a
acts like
lot of
he's
ways.
at a loss for words. You ask him a question, and it's like, oh, he's fumbling. He's not going to get an answer, and then he comes out with this profound statement. But the one I liked is he said, people are accusing me of going after Social Security so I can enrich myself, and he said, yeah, I need to steal all the Social Security money so I can finally buy nice things for myself. It's like he doesn't need to do that, and that's the independence or the freedom from financial
Yeah.
entanglements is like, okay, well, if he's honest, if he's real, nobody owns that guy. Nobody owns Elon Musk.
I
Nobody owns
love
Donald Trump.
entrepreneurs that jump into politics. I love guys that already have a life. They've built their way money wise and all these things, and you can't buy them. I freaking love them. I wanna ask you about what's your take on Trump and Gaza. I don't know if you've heard of his statements, and when the Israeli Prime Minister was here, and all the people that they've been coming to the United States and the White House, but what he wants to do with Gaza, just and I freaking love it. Like I remember there's this girl that asked him, but like which authority are you gonna take? Are you gonna buy it? No, we're not gonna buy it. We're just gonna take it. And the girl's like,
Yeah.
but what authority? And he's like, the authority of the United States. He's like doesn't care. But like, what's your take on it? In like taking the refugees out, the Palestinians and everything, and just making Gaza like this whole economic buildings and just making it better.
Well, what I love about Trump is he's been unequivocal about his support for Israel. And it's not just because he loves Israel, it's because Israel has been an ally. Israel is really important on the world stage. The Middle East is really important to the world stage. You let Hamas, you let Palestine do what they say they're going to do to Israel, and they become a world threat. So you've got Israel that's standing between Palestine and Hamas and the rest of the world, and you say, oh, well, that's none of my business. I'm just going to sit back and let things happen there. I mean, that's like the height of irresponsibility, and because you've got to support Israel because they're standing between, truly evil people and the rest of the world. And again,
Yeah.
like you're pointing out, what a bold, audacious thing to just say, well, we're just going to come and take over Gaza.
What are you
It's
gonna
like,
do?
oh,
We're the United States. What are you gonna do about it?
so now
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy some property, some oceanfront property in Gaza because it's going to be a great place to live. But the whole idea that Trump comes in and just makes an audacious statement like that, and then backs it up with what you're saying. Well, I can do it by the authority of the United States. I'm not going to sit by and be the effect of all of these terrorists, hurting people, hurting Americans, or hurting anybody in the world when I could do something about it. Same thing with the Panama Canal. It's like, why would we be held hostage by China who is taking over the Panama Canal, which we built and we sacrificed for, and we gave to Panama as a gesture of friendship, and then they turn around and and it's being used against us. All of it, the Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico.
I saw that. I saw it
All
on
of it.
Google Maps, and it's the Gulf of America now. It's freaking
I just picture Trump over the last 4 years, like having these thoughts, like, when I get in office, I'm going to do this day one. I'm going to do this day one. And Gulf of America, pardoning the
well,
J6ers, all of that stuff. It's what a
I,
leader does.
I think it comes down to, for the past 4 years, America's been inferior, that other countries disrespected, not trusted, made fun of. It was a joke. Weak leadership, weak people running this country, people taking advantage. I've seen like the deficit with Europe, of the United. Like, you go to Europe, there's like not a lot of American cars. Other countries taking advantage of the United States. And to be honest, for me, I'm Chilean. Like, I have my investor's visa through my company here in the US. I'm not even an American. I can't even claim myself to be an American. But being part of a country that is like, we're the best and you're gonna show us respect, and I'm gonna like make sure that you know that I'm better than you in a way, or that I'm like the number one. It gives you this sense of pride to be here, this sense of like, dude, this is sick. I belong to this like team, to this country. And that's something that a lot of people haven't felt for a long time. And I just love Trump because he's like, dude, I'm the best at what I do. You can call him cocky, arrogant, whatever. I think to be at the place that he's at and to overcome all the stuff that he's gone through, yeah, you got to be cocky. You got to be arrogant. Dude, if somebody with like a normal mindset and kind of like more soft would have probably committed suicide by now because of all the stress and things that you go through in opposition. But just that sense that he's giving back to Americans, like, hey, we're going to take over everything. And I don't care what you say, and I'm just going to do it. It brings back these core values of what America was built on. We win wars, we win championships, we have the best athletes, we have the best companies here. And I truly believe a lot of it has been lost for the past years. And it's like slowly but consistently, he's bringing that back into this country by taking over and doing whatever he wants, which I think is great. To be honest, I'm loving it. I love it. And people complain about it, but I think it's freaking audacious. It's bold, and those are the attributes that make a winner. You know, so I don't know. I don't know what you're taking. I think it's amazing.
They're the attributes that define America. America was founded on defiance, and it wasn't defiance just for the sake of defiance. It was saying we're free, and we're not going to be subject to the abuse that comes from tyrants and bad policy from Great Britain, or whatever the case might be. And so that spirit of independence and audaciousness and honesty and noble and virtuous and all of those things too. All those things that America stands for are really important. And if we lose our virtuous side, then the audaciousness just becomes bullying and mean. But President Trump does have the virtuous side. He does have the righteous high ground. He has the moral high ground, and that's in Utah. That's what I'm looking at currently in Utah. It's like, who has the moral high ground here? Because it's certainly not Spencer Cox. It's not the Disagree Better and the Dignity Index, and even like Brigham Young University used to be this shining light on a hill. They don't have the same standards. They don't stand up for Jesus. They don't stand up for the values. We don't speak about it enough. And I think that we've left this vacancy of the moral high ground. I'm waiting for, we don't have the evangelical movement to step in and say, well, we'll be the moral compass of Utah. I feel like Utah has lost its moral compass to a certain extent. And you see it. You see the symptoms of that with the accusations that are coming from the left and constantly accusing good people that before we would have held up and said, these are the people that are helping to shape our society. Now they become the ones that are attacked, and it's the people like Spencer Cox and the agenda-driven, money-driven people
and
who are taking the high ground, and it's really horrible.
And it's tough because like I've seen that a lot, and for good people that want to serve locally in their communities and the government and whatnot, they start seeing other examples of people that do it, and then all their lives become public, and the media and the attacks and I'm pretty sure for a lot of good people, it's like, yeah, I don't want to deal with it, you know, because at the end of the day, dude, everyone has hurt. Dude, I've done things I'm not proud of. I'm pretty sure you're in the same boat. Like, we're all human. And the fact that they go after good people that actually want to serve and get stuff done and fix a lot of like policies and stuff, it's really ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
And you know, if you do live a life that you're trying to do the right thing, and then people come, and so I had this happen just a couple of months ago, just before the election. Some people that came after me on Twitter with the most wild allegations, and it's like, and I have to look at that and say, I know it's not true, but I look at the other people that they've gone after, and it's like, I know it's not true about me, so I have to assume that it's not true about those other people that you're
yeah.
going after. And then, and here's the part that I hate to be like a broken record, but those accusers and those people that are doing this, politically motivated, it goes back to Spencer Cox. It goes back to coming straight out of his administration and straight from the people that are his underlings. And you're like, if that's the way you maintain your power, by going after and spreading vicious, horrible lies about people who are actually fighting the good fight, then it tells me everything I need to know about you. And I think that's another benefit that's come from the last 4 years, is people recognize there are true evil people in this world and in this
oh, they
country.
are
Yeah.
100%. But
So
the
yeah.
funny thing is that what I've learned is that most of the people in media or whatever that they accuse somebody of something, 99.999% of the times is because they are the ones doing it. So they're accusing you for stuff that they're actually doing themselves. You know,
And why do we go along with the gaslighting, and we really have, we've been
that's
gaslit.
insane. Like the level of
The
gaslighting in the
media,
past
the
like
media
years.
steps in. So right now people are like, I'm not going to watch KSL news. I'm going to watch,
Yeah.
I'm going to watch, social media posts. I'm going to watch things like this. And even if I know that there might be some misinformation or things like that, at least I'm not being misled intentionally so the mainstream media has been cut down to size. Thank you,
Oh,
Donald Trump, for
100%.
that,
Yeah. Yeah, a
So
lot
yeah,
of podcasts have been rising and private networks and just people just sharing
right.
content.
Yeah.
And I think it's just giving back the power to the people. And I think for the next
100%.
4 years, that's like the main thing. I have something else I want to talk to you about. I want to see your take because I've seen this a lot of inflation, tariffs, a lot of people complaining. But yeah, Trump said he was going to target inflation day one, and I'm always defending. I'm like, guys, it's been a month. Taking inflation down takes a lot of time. If
Right.
you knew all like the messed up, stupid decisions the past administration did, and they blame like the whole tariffs thing, people are just so dumb because they're like, yeah, but tariffs, if you charge tariffs to other countries, they're going to raise their prices. I'm like, no, they won't. Because tariffs, what it is like you're literally pointing a gun to someone. He's like, give me what I want, or I'm going to charge you a crap ton of money that you're not going to want to do business with me. So he's going to force you to do what I want, and you're going to end up building your stuff in my country. Make sense? It's like what happened with the Colombian president. He's like, I'm not going to take the immigrants that you're sending. And then Trump announced like the same day, tariffs, revoke visas, and put all these extra inspection of exports in Colombia. And then like after a couple hours, the Colombian president was like, I'm going to send tariffs to you. And then Trump just went off on him. And then like he deleted the tweet, and the Colombian president was like, never mind, we'll take everybody. I'm going to send my presidential plane to get my immigrants. It just works. It worked with Canada. It worked with, I think, I don't know with Mexico. I haven't seen it. Well, I think they did. I think they put like more military on the border. It worked with Colombia. So it's just literally like pointing a gun to someone, and be like, "Give me what I want, or I'm going to shoot you and charge you a lot of money." But what's
Right.
your take on tariffs and what people are saying? Tariffs on China, Canada, and all those things.
Yeah, I mean, economically, tariffs are bad. Tariffs raise the cost of goods to the people. But what Trump has said is, I'm going to get rid of the income tax, because that's also bad. That's theft. So if someone comes in and says, not only am I going to raise money from our foreign commerce, but I'm also going to reduce your income tax, or I'm going to get rid of some of the other burden that I have. And the other thing, and I think you kind of alluded to this, Ben, is that you can't crucify a person for coming and saying that he's going to do something. He's already backed away quite a bit on the tariffs because he knows that economically it has some challenges. But to threaten tariffs is exactly the right thing to do. To
It's
tell
just a way of
Canada,
negotiating, like dealing with people.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like back
to
down,
make a
or I'm
deal.
going to put these tariffs
Yeah.
on you. It's warfare, and if you don't have the balls to say, I'm going to implement really drastic financial measures that will hurt you, then you're just a pussycat. You're just like, oh, nobody takes you seriously. People take Trump seriously. And if he says, I'm going to put tariffs on Mexico, I'm going to put tariffs on Canada. I mean, Canada was just losing their minds there for
Yeah, in
a
the
little
beginning,
while.
Canada was like, yeah, friggin', we're gonna put tariffs, and then they announced Trudeau. He's like, yeah, never mind, we're gonna put billions of dollars for fentanyl and like help decrease it and border stuff and all these different things. So he's just good at negotiating with people, and that's what people
And it is
are
a
not used to it.
negotiation. Yeah, it is a negotiation.
Yeah, that's what people are not used to because we had a guy for 4 years that he was in the beach 80% of his administration and he had no idea what he was doing and people were like, this dude was dying. Like he was just not
Oh,
there.
it's such a beautiful thing to see a leader that just says, I'm going to affect you in a negative way. If you don't straighten up,
Yeah.
I'm going to affect you in a negative way. In the past, it's always been, well, if you don't do what we want, then, we're going to write a strongly worded letter, but, oh, we would never kick you out of our country. We would never actually, do something that would help us and help us win that
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
Trump, there's no question. There's no question. He'll win the fight. If he doesn't win it, it's not going to be because he's
Yeah.
a coward.
What's your take on this week? Was I don't know if it was this week, I think it was last week, but RFK got approved, Tulsi got approved, the FBI director got approved. What's your take on all these people that I think the cabinet is already done? I think Trump had his first meeting this week. I think it was
so,
today or
yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
What's your take on all these guys? You like them?
I mean,
You don't like them?
when you put Dan Bongino as a deputy director
That
of the
dude's a dog,
FBI
man.
under Kash Patel,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's what makes you wake up happy.
Yeah.
And, just like, I don't know what they're going to do, but Dan Bongino, such a stud, such a, straight thinking, and he's fed up. He's had enough of the corruption. So I love it. Pam Bondi, U.S. attorney, I think, what a great pick. I was a big fan of Matt Gaetz when they were considering him, but she's already hired him, or maybe it was Kash Patel hired.
Wait, what happened with Matt Gaetz? I know that he was going to be the what was he appointed to?
Attorney General.
But didn't a lot of allegations come out, like sexual stuff and
Yeah,
things that he
all
was
kinds
doing?
of stuff. And I don't know if that's why he backed out, or because now he's been hired by Kash Patel as special counsel for a election case, I think in North Carolina, which is, and I might have my facts wrong there, but he's hired as special counsel, and he may end up being a senator in Florida by the time this is all said and done. But anyway, great, exciting stuff going on. No nonsense stuff. They're supposed to go and audit Fort Knox, and
I know
I'm
you
really
posted
curious
a
if they find
video.
any gold there. It's like,
So are you optimistic in the next 4 years, Phil?
am I what?
Optimistic in what's going to happen in the next 4 years?
Well, yeah. How do I put
At
this?
the national level, I know there's a lot of things going on, Utah, local wise, and everything. But I think if you fix the head, the body will fix itself.
Right.
And I think
I guess that's
we just
the
had
only
a head that wasn't working for so long that the body was just doing whatever they wanted.
Yeah, the only reason I hedge on that is because I am in Utah and I'm watching some of the stuff that's like, please get some of this stuff addressed from the national level. And I'm optimistic that the federal government, in this situation, this administration, can affect that in a positive way. What I'm not optimistic about is that Utah will fix it on their own. I think they're going to have to be forced. But yeah, there's going to be a lot more money available without all the fraud and corruption and waste and abuse that's happened in the past. I think businesses are going to be a lot freer. I think the IRS is going to be a lot more on point, actually doing their job. Everyone was like afraid that the IRS, oh, now you're not going to get your refunds. Well, I think they woke up and said, you know what? If we don't get on the stick and actually do our job, we're going to lose our job. So the IRS, in my business as a CPA, they're actually more responsive.
I'm glad you brought that up because I saw this video the other day that is like, hey, it's amazing everything that's happening, the changes and stuff. But to be honest, I want to see some people in jail. I want to see some accountability. I want to see some accountability from COVID. I want to see some accountability from people that took money and not just calling them out, but be like, hey, we're going to prosecute you. You know what? That's treason. You've been corrupted for years and you took all this money. I want to see some accountability, because it's to the point that if there's not the accountability of consequences of what people have done, it's going to keep repeating. And I don't know if we've seen that yet. And again, I'm going to give some grace because like they've been in office for like 2 months, a month. It was January 20th, right?
Yeah.
A month and 6 days. But like, I think that's where, like, I think a lot of Americans, they want to see that. Like, for example, freaking Biden, like the day off when he was leaving and they were with the inauguration for Trump and stuff, he pardoned his entire family. He pardoned, I think he was the one that pardoned Fauci and everything. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
why would you have to pardon somebody if they didn't do anything wrong? You know? I'm
I
like,
went back. I went back. So I've been to DC. I don't go there very often, but I went back for the inauguration. I took my wife, and she hates the cold. And they canceled the inauguration, so everybody that wanted to get into the arena was standing out in the cold, and we were out there for 5 hours just freezing. And afterwards, I said, "What was your favorite? What was your favorite part of the trip?" She said, "I think standing in line." Even though we were freezing, we were there with other people, and everybody was optimistic. Everybody was talking. They were happy, and really kind of this whole feeling of maybe we can finally get rid of the corruption and the evil and the sinful, like, cloud that's hanging over us. And if we look at the prophecies and the things, I think we've got a period of time to really do something, and maybe put some things in order before the second coming, before things really start to fall apart. And I just people deserve it. Honest people deserve government that serves them instead of takes all their stuff and puts them in jail. This January 6th stuff. I sat and talked to 3 J6ers back there at CPAC for an hour and a half, and I mean, these guys been in jail for 4 years, some of them, and not for breaking a law. The one guy was a former, he's a veteran from Afghanistan, served his country, contractor, and it's really astonishing that you go from that really negative thing to something so positive.
yeah.
As now coming back out, taking care of their families, looking forward to getting married and resuming their lives and things. It's
Yeah,
exciting.
the double standard, because then you had like Antifa taking over cities and burning buildings and nobody got prosecuted. But then you have these people that there's so much documentation and proof that literally the cops let him in. And there was like no opposition for it. And like it was like a planned thing. And it's just so stupid. And they put a lot of people in jail.
I
And
told you, I told you I had a pardon from Donald Trump, right?
I knew that. Yeah, I knew that.
I don't know if I brought it up during our conversation here,
Yeah,
but
I knew that.
it's a good end when I go up to the January 6ers and say, yeah, I got a pardon from Donald Trump back in 2020, and they're like,
Have you ever met him?
yeah, yeah, I've met him. I shook his hand. It
Donald Trump?
wasn't in relation to Trump. Is when he came out and reduced the Bears Ears and the Grand Staircase national monuments, which he's going to do again, by the way. I got a chance. I was the county commissioner at the time, and that was my fight. I mean, I was fighting the Bears Ears National Monument when I was prosecuted for misdemeanor conspiracy to trespass and put in jail. And I spent $400,000 on attorneys and everything else. These guys they think they're going to destroy your will and destroy your life. And like you say, that's why you watch somebody like Trump and you think, if he can stay in there and keep fighting, then I'm going to stay in there and keep fighting, and honest people at the end of the day will have a champion instead of someone who throws them under the bus.
No, I agree. And just to start wrapping things up, I like what you mentioned a couple minutes ago when you talked about kind of like a spiritual thing. Because I think for the next 4 years we have an opportunity to really get ahead financially, spiritually. As I said, dude, the moment the United States falls is the moment that Christ is literally coming back, and there's nothing else. Because like, it's the U.S. Like, where do you go from here? You don't go to like freaking South America or China or Europe. Like, no, people are coming here. So the moment the U.S. falls is the moment like our world is over. And I truly believe God gave us a second opportunity. And I don't know if you've seen that Kamala is like leading points for 2028 for the next upcoming election. I have no idea how. But I don't know. I think people do have an opportunity for the next 4 years to make something out of themselves, to get ahead, and the power is truly coming back to the people, which is something that I'm very excited as well.
I agree. Yeah, a chance to repent, really, and to put ourselves straight with God, and to recognize that that's where our hope lies. Not in money and not in the arm of flesh, but in treating each other correctly. Our duty to stand up and be men. I love it. That it's like you can be a man again. You can stand up and say, I'm the only reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And there's two genders, and I'm going to stand up for women, and I'm going to open doors for women.
Dude, the fact that he had to pass an executive order to announce that there's only two genders, for me, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
But it's like this quote, hard times create strong men create good times, and good times create soft men, and
Yeah.
soft men create hard times. And I think now the pendulum is we had a hard time for the past 4 years, and now that created good people, hard men, and good leaders. So, what's your final thoughts, Phil? What would you invite people to share, to do, when it comes to taking care of their country, being more aware of what's going on, getting involved? What's your final thoughts of this conversation?
I guess maybe my my final takeaway is to have faith, be optimistic, don't equivocate, don't try to justify this or this. Just say this is the right thing to do, and now is the time to do it, and have some faith. Be willing to step back and recognize that God ultimately is in charge of this. The duty is ours, and the results are His. So we do our duty. We stand up for people. I kind of ran on a platform that honest people have rights too, and the only hope they have is that other people will stand up for them when they're being attacked. And we've seen honest people attacked, and a lot of people don't stand up. Whether it's the January 6 people or the parents that were being prosecuted by school boards. If we have a chance, we just stand up for each other. We stand up for the honest people and recognize the power of, our Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal and that we're endowed by our Creator, and really just like put those things right in your heart and live it instead of just talk about it.
I love it, brother. I love it. I respect you, Phil, a lot. Through the times from last year to now, I feel like I've been able to get to know you a little bit more. And I just like how honest you are. You're like a real guy. You show what you do. You're very authentic. You're very honest. And I truly believe that what you're trying to do here in Utah and your work is because it comes from you. You do have the best interest for people. And I mean, I think that's what it's required for public office, for people that want to be in the government or serve in the government or whatever, or hold any type of office in the government or in the state or whatever. So I really respect that. How can people support you when it comes to your journey, Utah, and everything that you're doing?
Well, first of all, I feel the same way about you. I sense the same, lack of agenda, just that you're out there just trying to do the right thing. And so thank you. And people that are willing to use their voice to do something good. Who knows what good's going to come from this podcast and other podcasts like it. So keep that up. As far as supporting us, I still, go and follow us on X and Facebook and Instagram. We're still producing stuff all the time, still going to events. And if people will follow us, I think that's really important. We've got our lawsuits that we're doing. And if people are following that, I think it's good. I've always said, it's not that we don't need, it's not that we're out there trying to raise money. We're trying to win the hearts and minds of the people to this idea of what America is all about. And it's happening. We're so blessed. And so band together and follow each other and support good people.
Dude, I appreciate you. We should do more of it. I know, I think there's so much that I wanted to talk, but obviously time is a thing, and I have a meeting now in like 20 more minutes. But I would love to keep doing more like segments like this, like at least like once a month or something. We can literally just talk about what's going on, because I think you're very knowledgeable when it comes to policy and all these laws and everything. So I would love. I mean, we can talk about that later and everything, but
there's no shortage of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, there's not. There's so much we can talk about, and I think, I started this podcast because I got banned on Instagram last year when I posted about the Olympics, about the Iman Khalif guy that ended up being a dude fighting a girl in the boxing thing with an Italian girl, and I got banned for 4 days and I couldn't speak, and he pissed me off. They shut my platform down and everything. That's awesome. And I was so mad that I'm like, I need a platform that I can speak about this stuff without anybody holding me back. So that's why I started the Real Christian Show, because I know that there's a lot of people that believe in Christ and God that they're not speaking up, and they're very passive in their beliefs, and they're not willing to have a backbone to do anything. And a lot of it comes down to men. Like, we need more strong men. We need more strong fathers and husbands and leaders and entrepreneurs and business guys and politicians and like everything. I think we live in a society that we have a lot of soft men. We have a lot of emotional men. We have a lot of weak men. We have a lot of men that live with shame, that winning is not being promoted, being strong is not being promoted, being a leader, an entrepreneur, creating cool stuff and making money is not being promoted, and doing the right thing is not being promoted. And I think a lot of it, as Christians, we have an obligation to defend not only our faith on Sundays, but every day, every day. And I look at the, like, back in the day in the scriptures, like all these prophets and generals and leaders, that they would kill people and defend their country and defend God, and carrying their chest and in their daily lives and everything. And we don't have that. We have men that are fat, that are out of shape, that are soft, that are weak, that they're just, masculinity is so completely lost. And I think as Christians, we have that obligation in applying faith, not only on Sundays, but every day. Every day. So that's why it's called the real Christian. Not in a way that how holy and righteous people are, no. But he's people that need Christ and need God, but this is what a real Christian looks like. Somebody who has a backbone, he's bold, he's a leader, speaks up, and he's doing it every single day. So that's why the whole thing came out in last year. I was so pissed from it, dude. But anyway, dude, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're very busy, but thank you for taking the time. And guys, if you found valuable this conversation, this episode, share with your friends. We're going to definitely do more of it. I'll talk to Phil about it if you're down. We can definitely do more of it in the future and cover certain topics and stuff like that. But share it with your friends. We depend 150% on you guys for word of mouth and for you to share the show so we can grow. So, yeah, love you guys. Much love, Phil. Have a blessed day. God bless you, and I'll see you soon.
God bless you too. Thanks,
Take
Ben.
care. Bye-bye.
See ya.